Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Game Time, the Indian Express Sports Podcast. Today we are moving forward from the Border Gavaskar Trophy specials. It's been a long time since we've been focusing on cricket, so something else, a change of pace, much more cerebral. We're going to look at chess this week, and joining us is Amit Kamath, our chess expert, so to speak, and we'll be looking at something that happened towards the end of last year at the World Rapid and Blitz Championships, where Magnus Carlsen was disqualified / pulled out because of a controversy over attire. The genesis of this controversy is genes, but there is much more to it, and we'll also be looking forward to what the new year holds in terms of chess and all that and more. Amit, let's just start off with the basic context. Just what happened with the World Rapid and Blitz with Magnus, first pulling out and then sharing title. So much happened in New York.
Yeah, I think it was almost like a big boss house in that sense. There was just drama all throughout. It all started with Magnus turning up for a match wearing jeans. It's one of those things, right? At the last World Rapid and Blitz tournaments, I think one female player was fined for wearing sneakers. So it all started from that. So this year, obviously, they had a PowerPoint presentation. They had slides explaining what clothes can be worn, what should be avoided. Literally, the stuff that HR sends you, they had all of those things on that chart saying that we have to give a presentation that we are a professional sport and all of those things, right? So that was sent. Now, Magnus apparently went to some sort of a meeting and then he didn't know that he had a game, but then he did not realize that he had just turned up in jeans. He had put on a suit over it. So except for the jeans, everything else was in place. Now, the arbiter walks up to Magnus, tells him that, you can't be wearing jeans here because we've given clear directives and that was accepted by all the players. So you will have to change. And Magnus said, okay, but I'll change it tomorrow, not today. Now, the arbiter told him that, if you don't change it for the next game, you will be unpaired for the game after that. So if you get unpaired for one match, your chances of winning the tournament itself is going to go down the drains. So Magnus said, okay, fine, I'm not playing. He said that in very colorful language in a sense. And just basically boycotted the event. He said that I don't want to play because it's an ideological issue, I guess. And then there was a lot of conversation happening in the background. Magnus basically had to be persuaded to come back, but maybe it was not about the jeans after all.
Yeah, so that is where the question is, right? I mean, it sounds like there is more to it than just dress code. I mean, how does it really matter what players are wearing when they play a game of chess over a board? That's the kind of question that most people have. There is more to it than meets the eye, right? I mean, there's been tensions between Magnus and FIDE for a while now. He's refused to play the World Championships because he finds it beneath him, so to speak. But there is also more going on that is kind of causing tensions between FIDE and Magnus, right?
Yeah, I don't think Magnus thinks it's beneath him, but then he thinks that the rules that are there for the tournament are kind of... So there are two things happening here. One is that Magnus is genuinely, I think, disillusioned with the classical format itself, because he thinks that, playing a game for 2 hours where the first 15 or 20 of your moves are basically just something you learn from rote the night before is not really intellectually challenging to him in a sense. Now, Magnus, if you remember, is a guy who's essentially completed chess. There was only one tournament that he had not won so far, and that was the FIDE World Cup, which he won last year. After that, there is nothing really in chess that he's not won, without any challenge in a sense. So for him, he's kind of bored with the same old format. Other thing is, he does have a point there where he says that, the amount of effort that you put in to retain your title also, because you have to kind of be on guard for 6 months or 7 months and all of that. And then there is another long 20-day tournament and things like that. It does take a lot out of you. And after 5 times of winning the title, I guess he's in a sense justified to say that, okay, I'm not interested anymore. I will turn my attention elsewhere.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that was one thing.
Right. And so that's kind of where the friction starts, right? I mean, he has his own grand plans for chess, so to speak.
Correct. So I think Magnus essentially is somebody who's been driven by newer challenges. One of those newer challenges is a tournament called Freestyle. Freestyle is, just for explaining to our listeners, Freestyle is a tournament where the back ranks of both players will get randomized. So what happens is from the first move itself, you are out of the book. There is nothing that you can prepare overnight because there are 960 separate positions that can happen in the back ranks when you randomize it. And how are you going to prepare for all 960 right? So that is something that Magnus has kind of made it his life's motto or mission or whatever you want to call it. Magnus has been a very vocal proponent of it. And what happened is, before the FIDE Rapid and Blitz tournament started, there was this whole kerfuffle, fisticuffs, not fisticuffs, verbal fisticuffs in a sense, between players like Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura on the one hand and FIDE on the other, because this freestyle Grand Slam chess tour that is coming up, which is a event which will have 5 tournaments across the world in 2025. They wanted to call whoever won it the world champion. Now FIDE had a problem with that and said that, you can't call yourself a world champion. I mean, no tournament can call their winners a world champion and can call itself a world championship unless you have explicit permission from FIDE. Because the other thing is, then what else is FIDE there for, right? If somebody randomly turns up and calls itself a world championship, it's almost like an intellectual property of FIDE, no? So that was the problem. A lot of players, including Magnus, Hikaru, they said that they were threatened by FIDE in playing at that tournament because they had signed contracts in previous tournaments which said that they will not play in other tournaments which are calling themselves world championships, things like that. So it was not so much about the genes. There was a lot of issues simmering in the background. And yeah, it kind of came to a head at the world championship because, as Magnus said, that, his patience with FIDE was thin to begin with. And this was just one of those that pushed him over the ledge.
Yeah, that interview with Take after that whole jeans controversy was quite fascinating. Very colorful words that Magnus used to FIDE. And also, where does this leave the future of chess, Amit? So the reason I ask that is, this is all sounding a little bit familiar to what happened, late 90s, early 2000s when there was a breakout world championships. Kasparov had fallout with FIDE. They had their own thing and FIDE had their own thing. And then it was all unified in 2006. Things were going well for 15, 16 years. So where does this leave the future of chess? Is there another breakout happening, so to speak?
So right now, that all of the chances that there is a breakout has been kind of contained because the FIDE guys basically gave in, and Magnus did compete at the Rapid and Blitz Championship. After all, he did co-win. I don't know if that's a word, but yeah, that's what Magnus did. He agreed to share the title of FIDE Blitz Championship with Ian Nepomniachtchi. So he is playing in FIDE events. It's not like he's boycotting them. He will not be playing in the World Championship, obviously, or he'll not try and qualify for the candidates, things like that. But then he's still around. He's not completely given up. The rest of the players also are not completely disenfranchised or disillusioned by FIDE so far. So I don't know if there is a breakaway happening. There is still going to be the Grand Slam tour that will happen. There'll be 5 tournaments. And the most interesting thing about that Grand Slam tour is that the first event that will happen at Weissenhaus in Germany, which will happen in February, which is next month. In that tournament, you will have Gukesh, who's the world champion. You will have Magnus, and you will have Vishwanathan Anand, who's the deputy president of the FIDE. So, we should look at it as something that is going to threaten the established hierarchy because, chess is one of those things, right? There is no established hierarchy in a sense. Like FIDE organizes only very handful of tournaments, including Rapid and Blitz, World Championship, FIDE World Cup. But that's it. Besides that, it's like events like Norway Chess or the Sinfield Cup. All of these tournaments are like privately organized events that FIDE gives its approval to. So the freestyle Grand Slam chess tour event should not be like a breakaway of sorts.
Right. That explains a lot, actually. So basically that small bit that you touched upon there, Magnus is unlikely to play the classical anytime soon. And that leaves Gukesh's dream of, competing with Magnus, I guess, will be unfulfilled for a while at least, unless Magnus has a sudden change of heart. So just looking forward, how do you see things panning out? Magnus is not going to compete classical. So this year we'll see Indians trying to get the chance to take on Gukesh?
Vinayk, just before I come to the Indians, I just need to point out one more thing that happened at the FIDE Rapid and Blitz tournament, right? So at the Rapid and Blitz tournament, Hans Niemann, who's been portrayed as a villain and a cheater and all of that by Magnus, he kind of was playing in the Blitz tournament, and in one of the matches, his opponent, Daniel Dubov, he never showed up. So this guy waited for almost 15 minutes and then the forfeit was called and he was given a win. Now, Daniel Dubov is somebody who has a slightly twisted history with Niemann. because Daniel Dubov has been a second to Magnus. So later when he was asked about it, like, why would you miss a match? Daniel Dubov said that, I had gone back to my room and I fell asleep. Now, that is a little bit of a comical explanation for this, only because, like, your hotel was 5 minutes walking distance away from the playing hall. There are 30-minute gaps between two matches in the Blitz Championship. You play one match, it takes you almost 15 minutes. So between one match and the other, one match finishing and the second match starting, you should have a roughly 15-minute window. So in those 15 minutes, you decided to go to your hotel room by spending 5 minutes, which means you will have 5 more minutes to come back to the playing arena, and you have 5 minutes left. Are you actually going to take a nap in those 5 minutes? And the thing is, this guy never showed up at all. Matlab, anytime during those 15 minutes that Neiman was waiting for him. Now, why I'm giving you this example is that chess, in a sense, right now is a smorgasbord. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like a box of these really colorful characters. There are the Kramniks on one side who are disillusioned by everything. There is Magnus who is crusading against something or the other. There is Nakamura who is like a motor mouth who will fight against Magnus one day, be his best friend the other day. So everybody is like a character in itself. And then you have the Indians. You have the Gukesh, you have the Prag, who have the Arjun, who are largely, they are their own people. I mean, they're not somebody who's going to get sucked into this tomfoolery, because they're just doing their own thing. And sometime back you mentioned this breakaway that happened during Kasparov's era. If you realize, Vishwanathan Anand was one of those players who benefited exceptionally from that breakaway, because he played in both world championships. He was also playing in the breakaway thing, and he was playing in the FIDE wala thing, because he was like, why should I take sides? I mean, you guys have a fight, I have no horse in this race, I'm going to play in both events. I think that is what is going to happen. Even if the break or whatever, the factionalism becomes like a massive thing, the Indians are going to be like proper Vishy's disciples, and they're going to say that, okay, I'm going to play in World Rapid and Blitz, which is organized by FIDE, and I'm also going to play in the freestyle event if it's a breakaway thing, because I can and I want to. And if Magnus and all the other guys decide to split from FIDE and play in that event, anyway FIDE is going to need big stars, and they won't be able to do away with the Indians. So I think either way, Indians are, they just seem like a very reasonable bunch who are not swayed by things happening off the board. They just have their focus on the board, and which is great. From the outside perspective, it does look like, kya pata hai, next World Championship in 2026, we might have Gukesh facing off against another Indian.
Right. That'd be something. I guess the biggest challenger to that is Fabi right now, would you say? I did listen to Hikaru wanting to be a part of it, but Fabi seems to be at least a front runner right now.
Yeah, Fabi is the first player to have actually qualified for the candidates, because he just narrowly beat out Arjun to earn the first slot for 2024 circuit ratings. He actually just beat him by 6 points, and that also was kind of legitimized at the FIDE Rapid and Blitz tournament, where Arjun would have had to definitely, I think he would have had to win the tournament or at least finish in the top few spots for him to have had a better chance than Fabi to qualify. But then that's not happened. Fabi has already qualified. But then the thing about Fabi is that he's had a shot at the World Championship. That came many years back when he played against Magnus. I think that was 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's not as if Fabi's not played in the thing before. He has. He's experienced that, and it's not worked out for him. So I don't know whether the competition to make it to the World Championship is so strong at the moment that I don't know how many chances you get in this uber competitive field to make it out of the candidates. So Fabi is there, but he's one of the other 8 people. I'm pretty sure Prag is going to put up a very strong challenge. I'm pretty sure Arjun is going to be very motivated to qualify for the candidates for the first time. Last time he had missed out, and when he missed out on that candidates qualification, he kind of repurposed or rededicated his life into making that slight right. So that's all he's done over the last 1 year. And in fact, if you look at the freestyle events, I see Arjun's name is missing. And I'm pretty sure that's the reason why, because he's prioritized, just like Gukesh had all through last year, he'd only prioritized classical events. I'm pretty sure that is what we are going to see from Arjun this year in 2025.
Just before we close this, I think it'd be remiss to not speak about Hampi and Vaishali, who made sure that 2024 ended in grand fashion for Indian chess, right? What a year that was. And to bookend it all, we had world champion in Hampi and a bronze medalist in Vaishali. Quite remarkable achievements.
So that's the thing, right? I mean, the thing about Indian chess right now is that the boys have done so exceptionally well that everybody who's doing great is also kind of getting overshadowed in a sense. And I'm sure, I mean, as somebody who writes on chess, I'm also equally guilty of getting swayed by only the boys' results. But then even for women's players, this has been an insane year. Like you look at somebody like a Divya Deshmukh, she's had best year of her career. She's been, I think, the best gainer in the FIDE charts in 2024. She had a World Junior Championship gold medal at the start of the year. She had an individual gold medal at the Olympiad. Then you had somebody like Vantika. Both of these guys are just right now not grandmasters. So they are just IMs right now. They are hoping to become grandmasters in this coming year. But even Vantika had a gold medal at the Olympiad, an individual gold medal. The Indian team had a team gold. Then, as you mentioned, Humpy ended the year with a gold medal in rapid. You had Vaishali finishing third. And Vaishali, to be fair, she's not had the best of years in 2024. Like she's had a very quiet year in that sense. Like 2023, December, she became a grandmaster. And since then, results have not been, I mean, where she would have expected it. But even then, like when you have such a okay year by your own standards and you still win a bronze medal at the Blitz Championship, that tells you a lot about the caliber of the player. And obviously, I mean, Humpy is Humpy, yaar. Matlab, to win, I think this is a second gold in the World Rapid Championship.
Yeah, second title.
Yeah, so I mean, insane longevity in that sense.
Yeah, and she mentioned how every time she thinks she's on a downward trajectory, something happens and like a miracle, she finds another high. Quite a remarkable champion. I think it's been a fascinating chat, Amit. Chess, for all the, I guess, stereotypes saying that, it's a game of brains and, there is not much happening, there's not much action. It's just, like you said, it's a whole big boss house in there. Before we wrap up, our producer Shashank wants to chip in. Shashank, take it away.
Yeah, Amit, I had a question. Do a lot of chess players see any merit in what Magnus has been saying about the classical format?
Yeah, actually they have. A couple of players have spoken about the toll it takes on you. And I think if you watch the last two World Championships, nothing has illustrated this more than whatever we've seen from Ding Liren, He's basically been depressed even after winning the championship. Like he's had such a crazy slump that he started this World Championship as the world number 23. And that has never been a situation in World Championship history. So yeah, obviously it does take a toll. It does take a crazy toll because, I mean, you look at it this way. Sometime in March or April, where Gukesh qualified for the World Championship, since March till November, all of his life's decisions were in a sense geared up towards only one thing. Similar with Ding Liren in a sense. Ding obviously has said that he only started preparing seriously after the Olympiad ended. But then this is not something that will not be on your mind. He was a marked man at every tournament he went. People were wanting to definitely beat him at tournaments because you want to say that, okay, I'm not a top 10 grandmaster. I'm not a 2750 rated player. I've never reached 2800. Sure. But then I beat a reigning world champion once. So that is something that is obviously there. The physical and the emotional toll obviously are too high because you look at how exhausted somebody like a Ding looked even last year, even this year. It is something that is very, very all-consuming in a sense. And I mean, you look at somebody like a Magnus, he's done it for 5 times, never lost it. After that point, there was no upside for him. At some point, he's going to keep defending it. He's going to get tired. He's not going to feel the motivation. And then somebody's going to beat him. And then what happens? Then somebody says that, okay, maybe you are not the best ever because some kid from India came and defeated you. So there was no upside in that sense. But yeah, the other things, obviously, a lot of players will empathize with.
But there is a hierarchy when it comes to which format is revered more, right? Like classical is more revered than rapid, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's almost like if it is revered, but I think it has that holy cow, sacred cow status. Just like in cricket, you have test format, right? We always have these one set of people, punks, if you will, who will come and say that, this is boring, it's dying, nobody cares for this. And then you have another set of people like Gukesh who are like 18 and who have spent the last decade of their life just living for this one dream. As Gukesh said, every night I went to sleep thinking about this moment, becoming a world champion. So yeah, becoming a classical format is obviously something that everything is measured by your rating, is your classical rating in a sense. So yeah, it is the most hallowed format. But then the thing is, earlier there was a whole generation of players who were told that, aapko classical hi khelna hai. If you play rapid and blitz a lot, your game will get affected, which is why a lot of grandmasters from our country never played rapid and blitz too much. But now you look at somebody like an Arjun, you look at somebody like a Prag, they play so many rapid blitz, bug house, whatever tournament comes to them. So those things have fallen off. Those old norms that were there, dogmas if you will, they don't exist anymore. But then yeah, classical is still king in a sense.
Lovely. It's been a fascinating chat, Amit. Been a long time pending as per Shashank, who's been wanting to discuss this for a while now. Good chat, and hopefully you all enjoyed listening to this. More chess coming up this year, of course. Norway chess, like Amit mentioned, is going to be big with a lot of top players competing. The Grand Slam is also one to look forward to. That's it for this episode of Game Time. More to come next week. Thanks for listening.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.